There have been minor scuffles between police and protesters at the site of a proposed week-long climate camp in Kent. Up to 1,000 protesters are expected at the Kingsnorth power station site of a proposed new coal-fired plant, and the protesters' aim, is to shut it down. Well, our environment correspondent Catherine Jacob reports.
The main message of this year's Camp for Climate Action is no to new coal, and this is the target of their protest. The government's currently considering whether to build a new coal-fired power station here at Kingsnorth in Kent. The protesters intend by the end of the week to launch a direct action to try to shut the plant down and deter the government from opening a new one.
We intend to get into the power station and do whatever we can to stop it operating that day, to send a very strong message to say new coal is absolute madness. The solutions we're being offered along the lines of carbon capture and storage don't exist and won't exist for decades.
E.ON says the new facility is necessary to replace its existing plants. If it gets the go-ahead, it'll be the first coal-fired power station to be built in the UK for more than 30 years. But Green campaigners fear it'll open the floodgates for a whole new generation of coal-fired power stations in the UK. But while the new facility will be carbon capture ready, it could be decades before clean coal technology is commercially viable.
Unless we do have carbon capture and storage, the chance of achieving the targets of CO2 emission cuts by 2050 are minimal, because although in the long run renewables will take over, the chance of them taking over in the next 30 years seems very slight.
Despite the strong opposition, the government, though, is adamant that coal will play a vital role in the UK's energy mix.
I don't agree that we should say no entirely to new coal power stations. I would much rather be in a position, and we are in this position, of being a leading world nation in trying to develop the clean coal technology, the carbon capture and storage that we need.
Officers from 26 forces have been drafted in to police the camp. They've already made 2 arrests and have been searching many protesters after confiscating items they claim could be used for criminal behaviour. Over the course of the week, up to 2,000 protesters are expected to arrive here at the camp. And while they're determined ultimately to fulfil their goal of shutting down Kingsnorth, the police say they're just as determined to stop them. Catherine Jacob, Sky News in Kent.
And Catherine joins us live now from Kingsnorth. So, Catherine, highly controversial.
Hi, good morning, Dermot. Yes, an eventful morning here at the Camp for Climate Action. We're actually a little way away from it at the moment because the police won't let us get anywhere nearer the front entrance. But as we understand it, at 5:30 this morning, van loads of police officers, scores of them, I don't know the exact number as yet, turned up at the camp and tried to enter the site from both the front and back entrance. Now, at the front entrance, it was reasonably peaceful. In fact, what happened was, according to the protesters, they managed to close the gate and keep the police out, and then there was a standoff of about 3 hours between protesters and police. At the back gate, however, is where those minor scuffles took place. We understand from the protesters that 4 arrests have been made, though police won't confirm that. And protesters also say that there were injuries, that pepper spray was used, and that the police were dressed in protective clothing. That standoff is now still going on, although it is more peaceful now. And to get more on that from the protesters' point of view anyway, I'm joined by Kevin Smith, one of the participants in the climate camp. So, Kevin, you were there this morning. Give us your version of what happened.
I mean, there was a bit of a scuffle this morning. The police came on to this entrance to try and seize vehicles which they claimed were abandoned, which they clearly weren't. They're also claiming these vehicles were blocking access for emergency vehicles. We've actually spoken to the fire department already, and that's not the main exit for the camp. So what we're seeing here is another example of political policing being used to try and intimidate people from all over the country to come in and sit in the field over there and talk about climate change and try and engage in positive solutions and shut down Kingsnorth Power Station.
There is a very heavy police presence here, isn't there? I'd say there's many more police than protesters, in fact, at the moment. And there have been some arrests this morning and last week. The police saying they've confiscated items that could have been used for illegal behaviour. Talking about your direct action on Saturday, is that still going ahead?
I mean, the thing is, we're not going to let this sort of political policing detract from the bigger issues of people coming here to take part in a really exciting, engaged way of dealing with climate change. And then, yes, on Saturday, after we've had all these workshops, we're going to be engaging in mass direct action to close Kings North Power Station down for the day.
And the police are asking protesters, or have been concerned about, in particular, about the raft regatta that's going on, that you intend to float vessels up the Medway to the jetty where Kings North gets its coal delivered. Is that still going ahead, or are you going to heed police concerns?
Well, I mean, safety is paramount to us. We've worked very hard on the safety of this issue, people having training courses and all the kind of safety aspects of it. And on Saturday, the Great Rebel Raft Regatta will be sailing up the estuary and laying aquatic siege to the power station as well.
OK, so at the moment things are fairly peaceful. I understand you have a fairly extraordinary guest arriving later on. Arthur Scargill, former president of the National Union of Miners, is arriving on site. What's he going to have to say for himself?
Well, it's fantastic that Arthur Scargill's coming down. It's a really great opportunity, and we feel quite honoured. And I imagine we're going to be talking about ways in which we can work together to move forward to ensure that there's a just transition to the low-carbon society. That is, communities like the mining community in the UK, who've already had the most incredibly rough ride, aren't disproportionately impacted by the changes to renewables that need to be made. All
right, Kevin, thank you very much indeed. I should just say too that I have had a statement from the police just in on what happened here at the camp this morning. They say they'd been increasingly concerned by the lack of safe access to the camp, and they say particularly where vehicles were blocking the site, they say we used absolutely the minimum force necessary. However, the response from protesters required us, say the police, to increase our presence on the site. Dermot.
OK, Catherine, many thanks for that. Catherine Jacob there, live in Kings North.